plateau that will last for a week, and it breaks firmly around the, it's March 29th, and it goes to about April 12th when it breaks.
Okay. So right now we're in building, and so
Correct.
With that, I'd like to ask you, what is the language building right now? What is it building?
You'll see that we're going to start building tension, and you'll notice it in all of the expressions coming out in the mainstream media. You'll see it expressed in commercials that are created during this period of time, or any kind of media that's created during this time. And if they're referencing current events, they'll use language that express anxiety, angst. We don't know if the stimulus is going to work. We don't know if it's large enough. We've got people saying it won't work. There's tension building on this, as opposed to everybody in the previous release period, where we had the same subject come up, bear in mind, which was in October.
Right.
And we had the same subject come up with all of the credit and so on, and the release language was 100% different. Everybody was assured that even if it wouldn't work, they didn't even go into that language. They said we just had to do it now, no question, and so on. And so here we are treated to the same subject again, which is basically the death of the dollar, and we're now at the next stage of, well, what are we going to do about it? And we're offering the same solution that was offered in October, but the language around it is entirely different. If you want to cross-compare language that comes out relative to the stimulus package over this next week or two versus the week or so after it was passed in the previous time, then you'll get an idea of the difference.
Uh-huh.
Make sense?
Yes, it does. Totally.
And we'll apply the building tension to almost any subject you want to talk about anymore during this period of time up until about, as we say, the middle of April.
Uh-huh.
And so if we had a military discussion, it wouldn't be release language of, there's going to be a war. It would be if there's going to be a war and worry about a war, etc.
Okay. So I think what I would like for you to do is when you get to the part in your reports here, the conclusion of Part 6, which is the final report of this particular series, you have an awful lot of information there, and I think that would probably be something that you would like to share, because it kind of wraps up all of these reports as they went along, and as we're going along, and it brings things into a lot more perspective too about the whole 2012 thing.
Right. The 2012 thing is a curious set of linguistics in and of itself, and we've noticed a large spike in the last year that was forecasting a very big change in the mindset of the populace relative to this subject over these next couple of years. For instance, the Y2K thing, everybody got whipped up, but realistically there was perhaps 13% of the populace that was involved in it in one way or another emotionally. Now we're already reaching into those kind of levels with 2012, and that's rather staggering. And I suspect that we might go to the point where maybe 50 to 60% of the populace is in some way concerned or emotionally active about the subject. So just based on the linguistics that we've got. And so we decided to do our little chart that we went through there of the various different threats. And we basically come to the conclusion, a couple of interesting conclusions. The data suggests that pretty soon, by, say, this coming fall of this year, big chunks of the populace just won't care anymore about the whole issue of the economy, markets, any kind of, quote, retirement system in the form of stocks or bonds or that kind of thing. We'll have been through such a horrific period of time that it'll put money in its perspective. Then, along with that, which will free up some of your mind in terms of your brain cells, you'll be able to concentrate on other subjects, is going to come in association with, or an interest in the whole 2012 galactic alignment issue. Not only the Mayan calendar and all of the history of it and so on. So expect to see lots more of this stuff in the media, because the media is finally going to try and get a handle around it while supporting the academic view and basically denying everything. But it's going to start breaking, and that break is going to cause increased pressure on the press and the other parts of the media to get deeper into it, which will excite more evidence or more interest and so on. And our conclusions really come down to an experience of the universe as it's presenting itself to us. And we can say safely, it does not matter what the cause is of the changes that we see happening around us. We now can see the changes happening in such a scale that we know that something is indeed up. If we want to phrase it at a very loose sort of a way, as opposed to going into all of the various different criteria. The reduction of such things as the heliosphere over the past few years, the magnetosphere interferences, the actions of the powers that be, the doomsday seed vault, virtually anything you care to name, chemtrails, Morgellons, new diseases, alterations in patterns of earthquakes, volcanoes, etc., all point to us being very close to a crescendo event. We suspect here at Half-Past Human, and I won't put this on George, although we've discussed it frequently, and he has his own set of opinions about this, but we suspect that at its core, the magnetic plate issue of the ecliptic of the Milky Way galaxy is a primary causative agent of what we're experiencing. Whether we want to phrase it as going in through a particular region of space or more dense energies coming from space, however you want to look at it. And its impacts are going to range from individual humans will be affected by these energies as the heliosphere and the magnetosphere collapse in the coming years and we're exposed to more and more radiation directly from the Milky Way. We might get to the point where we experience evolution at a rapid scale, which coincides, of course, with extinctions of many species. And so we have these abrupt little patterns of change in our past that appear to be repeating at this particular time in history, which makes it a really cool time to be alive.
Well, it does, and that goes along with in your Report 6, well, actually throughout, where you can go in and you put some links up to some other sites for some additional information. And it's absolutely phenomenal information. And I know that before we let you go here tonight, we've got about 10 minutes here, and before we let you go tonight, we're going to give everyone your website. But on those links, would you mind if I posted just the links?
You can right ahead. You can right ahead. Anything I post is taken from the public domain, and I'm sure no one would be upset with having those links spread around.
Okay.
We use those to give further depth to many of the contexts and concepts that we run across.
Okay, cool, because there is a wealth of information in those links as well that helps people to understand some of the things that we've been talking about and things that we obviously can't get to. I mean, even though you're on for about an hour and a half, that still it just doesn't even touch everything that I would really, really like to get into. Yeah,
it takes about 50 to 60 hours per week to put together one of the reports, and in this particular series we have 7 of the reports. So it's understandable. There's no way we could compress it.
No. And I do want to say, I want to take this opportunity right now, too. I meant to do that at the top of the hour here, is to thank you, Clif, for really all the work that you do and to bring this information to everyone, because it is very valuable information. It's very succinct. It's very clear. And I want to thank you, and so does the audience, because they're all listening, and everyone is walking away with something.
Well, I appreciate that, and you guys are most welcome. I'm doing it out of enlightened self-interest because I want to know, too. I see this stuff happening around me, and I'd like to get a view of it that says, okay, what next?
Yeah, exactly. So here's a couple of questions that we're going to see if you can answer.
Sure.
One of them is, do you see the USA losing its AAA credit rating this year?
Yes.
And do you see, are you still seeing linguistics re NASA whistleblowers, also any other disclosure linguistics?
Yes, those are under the larger theme of contact, as in contact with space aliens or interdimensional beings or not from here guys, however you want to think about them. And yes, we see the whistleblower meme is still gaining strength. It's going to get really serious through the rest of this year. Probably will start with some visibility, we think maybe mid-July. The first really international whistleblower will come out that will get a huge splash, and then there's a series that will go all the way through the rest of 2009 and 2010, if we're correct. And we see that the disclosure subset of this is going to come out, and that it's part of the paradigm shift. So that's a longer range thing. We can expect the whistleblowers to come out, but I wouldn't expect your next-door neighbor who thinks UFOs are hokum and voodoo and hoodoo and all kinds of strange things to change his mind for probably another 3/4 of a year, and that'll take a lot of evidence to make him shift.
Yeah, exactly. Do you see the name Nassim Haramein making big waves in the near future? He's a non-traditional physicist.
I know who he is. He's a cool guy with good presentation. We don't do personalities because we've done one in the past and the result was very bad. And so as a policy, we don't do individual names. So even if I did see anything, I certainly wouldn't comment on it.
Okay, very good. And do you have a projected population of the Earth before and after 2012?
I couldn't say before, in the sense that how many people between now and and 2012, boy, I'm not counting. Afterwards, there's certainly going to be a reduction. That can be seen just in the healthcare system collapse in the U.S. and developed world alone. We're expecting maybe as many as 2 million people to pass as a result of the degradation in the healthcare system as the dollar dies, just from that cause alone.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, but it's akin to a massive version of the collapse of the Soviet healthcare system, and the Soviet healthcare system had redundancies built into it that ours does not. So it'll be much worse for us than when the Soviet Union went. If anybody's really interested in how things developed in a collapse of a previous empire in a modern age, I would urge them to get Dmitry Orlov's book, Reinventing Collapse. It's not all that long. It's a very good personal perspective of what it was like to live through those days in the Soviet Union.
You know what? That's a really good idea for people, because it's, you know, what I have found, and I'm sure you've done the same thing, when you find a topic, you can go and research it, and you can just find a ton more information that helps to build the picture.
Yes.
So
Internet is so cool that way. It's just fantastic.
And
along that same vein, people should become interested in sprouting seeds as a source of nutrition in hard times, as well as get real serious about growing and taking responsibility for your own food for a lot of different reasons. And I'm citing the peanut butter health scare here, as well as the food crop issues that are going to be pending this year.
Right, and just as a reminder to everyone is, you know, if there was a catastrophe of any kind, really we've only got about a 3-day, maybe a week supply of food stored anywhere.
But they've also been, not to intrude, but there's also the other side of that. There's a paradigm shift that needs to be undertaken. The most efficient method of growing food existed in the Soviet Union prior to it becoming the Soviet Union, in these small private serfdom level villages. And it only takes, as they proved in the biointensive, go look up biointensive.org, only takes 1,100 square feet to grow an adequate vegetarian diet for a single human. Does not take that much.
No, it's not. No, that's not. And the last question that we're going to take from the audience tonight is, when will employment collapse? 40% laid off by when?
Well, I would say that we'll probably be seeing something like, I want to say October, November. There's a big uptick in the crises words and language for November, December that will impact the Obama administration in a serious way and may even move them to some international dealings. What I'm not really sure as to what's going on there. But a big chunk of that will be the snowballing effect of the unemployment crisis. So it's going to get bad over summer, and then the fall is just going to be awful.
So we got to hang under hats. We've got to become responsible. We've got to become self-reliant. We've got to take our rose-colored glasses off, and we got to get with the program.
Correct.
Yes, we do. As usual, Clif, this has just been eye-opening. It's been informative. It's been helpful. I so appreciate you being here today.
Glad to do it.
I'm really glad you came back, and I would like to invite you back maybe March, April, sometime like that. We'll get together if you're interested in coming back on and sharing the reports with us.
Sure. We'll go into the next series. The first part 0 gets posted, I think, March 7th. So anytime after that.
Wonderful. We'll set that up, and we'll make that announcement for all the listeners. And if you will, give everyone the websites so that they can go and explore and find out some more information.
Our particular screwiness is at halfpasthuman.com. And if you want to see the free report information that we let out through our public source, go to GeorgeYursUrbanSurvival.com daily report. And anything we've got that's pending, he'll post.
Wonderful, wonderful. And again, Clif, thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll be talking to you very soon. For the rest of you, stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments. Thanks, Clif.